Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Progressive Overload Podcast. Have you ever thought about strengthening multiple areas of your life at the same time? Then you've come to the right place. Our goal is to help you identify ways that you might need a progressive overload to break through those plateaus and keep you growing. What's up, Progressive Overload family? Welcome back to the show, episode 60, I think. Getting up there in the numbers. Yeah. It's crazy. It's been fun. I love it. You guys having a good week?
So far, so good.
Yeah?
It's early.
Good?
We'll see in a few days.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Today we're going to be talking about the dangers of polarization in the fitness industry. So there's, in almost every concept of health and fitness, there's two sides of every spectrum, and then there's two people that are religious about one idea on both sides of the spectrum, and then what we're going to do is kind of break those down and then talk about kind of where we should be in the middle ground and kind of I don't know. You'll kind of catch on to the angle as we go into it, but I'm excited about it because polarization is dangerous and it leads to confusion. It leads to misinterpretation of science and
right.
A lot of different stuff. So, anyways, y'all excited?
Yeah.
By the way, we have Veronica, which I was told is a main character's name.
Apparently.
What did she say?
That's what Allie said.
It's the main character's name of every movie. Character name. Just Veronica. Okay.
It's from the Archie comics.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, I always wanted to be called Ronnie. It just didn't happen.
Oh, man. I'll call you Ronnie.
Thanks.
All right, Ronnie.
I probably respond.
Yeah. What do you think, Ronnie?
Ooh, this is a good one. All right, question from the coffee can to start off our episode. I'm excited to hear this one.
Uh-oh.
All right, you absolutely are forced to sing a karaoke song in front of a full bar of people, whatever. What song do you pick?
It's probably an Amy Winehouse song because I know all of them.
You know, okay, which one?
Probably Back to Black.
Okay, and you have to sing it.
Or I'm not singing it.
Yeah, you have to sing it. This has come true.
I know.
Oh, man. Not a little tidbit?
No.
I can't even think of what that song is, so that's why I'm asking. I don't guess I know that song.
Mine would probably be Simple Man by Leonard Skinner.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Be all simple.
Yeah.
I know, man.
You sing it.
Yeah. Joe kind of puts a Creed sound on most things.
I know. Well, because who redid Simple Man?
It was
it
Shinedown.
Shinedown, yes. And so that's where that came
funny.
from. You know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna delete that part out of the recording because that was awkward. I think my go-to is always like. Baby, lock them door and turn them lights down.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know, some
country's
sort of
always
like
gonna be
country
good.
or way down yonder on the chain. You never knew how much that money was meant to me.
One of the guys that Calvin fought one time, he came out walking out to that song.
Chattahoochee?
No, not Chattahoochee. The Baby Lock Them Doors.
Baby Lock.
Yeah, it was so funny.
I love that. It's so ironic and
just like what are we doing?
Yeah.
Anyway,
cool. Well, there you go. Now you guys know so much more about us, and aren't you glad we did this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the first polarization ideal that we're going to talk about, and this one we can probably talk a long time about this one because, it's really interesting and it's crazy to me that people are at both sides of the spectrum, and so the first one is basically fat shaming versus the healthy at any size spectrum. So we have people on the one side who are the fat shamers, they or fat phobic. That's I don't see a whole lot of this personally, but I know it exists, especially on social media.
Yeah. I think it's more in also big box gyms and stuff like that. You're gonna get a few of them here and there. For the most part, I've only had like really great experiences with people.
Right.
Where if they do see somebody overweight or whatever, they're really, other people are really encouraging and really excited to see them in there.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't see too much of it, but once in a while,
Well, I think in today's world, there's a lot less on your nose and more, like you said, behind anonymous social media fat shaming.
It's safer that way to say ugly things that there's no repercussion from.
Right. And then it's like they may not say it directly to your face, but they're judging you at some point. Oh, I'm glad this fatty finally got in the gym or something like that.
Right.
Those kinds of things that they might be saying to their friend or something.
I think it all boils down to feeling superior in some way. And I think that is why there is this polarization, is how people feel superior.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think you've said this before, there's no morality in your size.
Right.
There's your size does not make you a good or a bad person, and a lot of people can make that assumption without knowing their character.
Yeah.
You never know what that person is going through.
Mm-hmm.
Or a lot of people will just automatically not connect somebody who's fat with being you're such a lazy person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of assumptions made when it's not always necessarily true. I mean, there's people that are skinny that are extremely lazy. You know, it's, yeah,
and unhealthy for that matter.
And unhealthy.
And that's what you were saying about polarization being dangerous, because when you start being in those polarizing groups and you isolate yourself and you only see those things, you start to adapt those thoughts about other people.
Exactly.
You know, with that being said, though, whenever you're talking to somebody that you actually care about, maybe shaming is not the right word, but sometimes, man, you do have to have those hard conversations with them.
It's true.
And it's like, listen, man, I care about you and I want you to be around for the next few years.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we got to change some stuff.
Right.
You know, and it's a hard, you can get on thin ice pretty quickly. But I also think it's important as somebody's friend or family to take care of your people and make sure you can be that person to talk them into a healthier lifestyle.
What's sad is most of the time the way people go about that is by making like either backhanded compliments type thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Instead of directly facing an issue and having a serious heart-to-heart conversation that comes out of love. They're afraid to confront somebody that way, so they try to make little small digs here and there
or
to
pinch your side.
Just like, just grab a little bit something here just to try to bring up a point that, hey, I've noticed you're gaining fat, kind of things like that. And so,
and I think as far as being well-meaning, we also have to be aware of being hypocritical, and telling other people to go do something that we're not doing ourselves. So.
Be about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So we have this side of the spectrum. What's the other side of the spectrum?
So, the other side of the spectrum, I would say, is more like fitness models, or like saying that people can't be healthy without a six-pack, or you shouldn't be allowed in a fitness space unless you look a certain way, unless you fit this ideal kind of I'm a fitness professional mold.
Right. Yeah, that perfectly describes that person. It's just something like if you're not deadlifting this amount of weight, you can't be a strength coach. Or if you're, there's... If
you are not photo ready.
Yeah, exactly. If you're not stage ready.
Don't fit.
Yeah. So there's definitely that side.
And the thing is, the thing that combines these two sides is they're both unhealthy, right? So it's like, if you think because your blood markers are good, that your health is just taken care of at any size, at any weight, at any body fat, you would be mistaken.
Right.
Yeah.
You're missing quality of life. Like, your joints are not putting up with it. Even if your blood markers are good, your breathing is labored when you climb stairs. It's not good.
Right.
But on the other hand, like, especially for women, because I want to be the voice of women here, like, there are very, very few women that are going to be at a body fat to have visible abs healthily. It's just not going to happen. 100%. And so to say that you can't be in a fitness space unless you look this certain way, well, that's also not healthy. And studies have shown over time this constant like thinking about food and thought process around food and what you're putting in your body all the time, it can just really mess with your mental health.
For sure. What do you guys think about the movement that's really popular right now, which is basically the body positivity movement? But I think it's a great movement, and I think it probably began as a well-intended movement.
Yeah,
I think so.
But I think it's become is trying to basically accept people are using it as as accepting their poor health.
Yeah, I don't know if you may be aware of this. So what they're calling it is called fat liberation at this point.
Oh, really?
So they're actually separating themselves from body positivity because on that end of the spectrum, they feel like it's taken away from fat acceptance. So they're calling it a fat liberation movement.
Fat liberation.
Yeah. And yeah. So they're branching away from body positivity because they are gatekeeping, and they don't believe that body positivity is for everybody. They believe it's for people, and they have attached their rhetoric to people of marginalized groups because they think they're one of them.
Right.
And so they think that people not everyone should be able to claim body positivity, and I think that's mistaken.
Right. Yeah.
In my opinion, really, I think people should be able to do what they want. So if you do want to be unhealthy and be that way, I'll accept you for that.
Yeah.
You know, I really will. That being said, it goes back to what I was saying about taking care of my loved ones. You know, like if my people are overweight and stuff, and I want you to be able to see and be with my kids whenever we're all old and stuff, like I have a responsibility to let you know, like, you're going to be killing yourself slowly. By being unhealthy. And while I'll accept you for who you are, it's just not a good way to go about it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really don't feel like people are honest when the main headliners for fat liberation and fat acceptance, I don't think they're being honest with themselves. A lot of the things that they say over and over is you don't owe anyone health. And I also think that's mistaken.
Wow.
Like, I think if you have a family.
If you have kids.
I totally disagree.
As a mom, I absolutely disagree. Certainly. I owe my family health. I owe my family a long life.
Sure.
Right.
And it's my job to try to make that happen. Does that mean it's going to happen? No. Does that mean if I get sick tomorrow, I've somehow failed? No.
Right.
But I think that it is my duty as a parent and as a spouse to live a long, healthy life.
And do everything you can to be functional and
absolutely.
Right. And especially, and so I totally agree with you from a woman's perspective, but also as a man's perspective, to be able to provide, protect, and be able to be a someone to look up to.
100%.
As a man, I think it's absolutely necessary to take care of myself and be healthy.
I think so too, absolutely. And you gave the women's perspective, you gave the man's perspective. I think there's also another side of it, which is a Christian's, Christ followers' perspective, which our great commission is to go and tell, is to go reach other people. And if I can't go and reach other people without getting winded, if I can't go and reach people because I'm sick every other week with a terrible immune system, or if I can't go over here without taking my medication, or I'm trying to think of different examples, but that is inhibiting me from the Great Commission that was given to us to go and make disciples. So if my health is getting in the way of that, then we're not able to do that in the way that Christ wants us to. And so that's a whole nother ballgame there too. Right. If you take that Great Commission seriously.
I also think there's like a big definition of health that people, it's very broad. And I think a lot of people have a different idea of what that looks like. And, right now, I really feel like it's preventative for me. I feel like it's quality of life. And I think a lot of people are mistaken and they think that health is just absence of disease.
Right.
And I don't feel that way at all. I feel like health is living in a way more than absence of disease, but it's living in a way without pain and preventative, actively being preventative of disease.
100%.
So moving forward to our number 2.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to that health, and this is talking about diet, but what do you guys think about vegetarian versus the new carnivore diet?
The carnivore movement. Yeah, this is pretty cool. Well, not cool. Of course, I'm very vocal about my love for meat and protein, so I obviously lean towards the more carnivore route. But even then, and for those of you that don't know, the carnivore diet is a diet that's come out within the last couple of years, or a way of eating, as they would say, where like you are literally eating meat and meat only.
Yes.
And there's not even vegetables.
Atkins
it is straight
on steroids.
Yeah. It is literally only meat. It is a automatic way to get your body into ketosis. I mean, they're even, if you do it the right way, you're even stringent on what kinds of seasonings you can use, and it's legit. But of course, we have the other side of that, which is the vegan and vegetarian movement. And, the difference. And
the government's even on board with that these days.
Right, exactly. And I wonder why. Because they can control the subsidization of the crops. Tinfoil hat here. Yeah.
No. I think we're all about it.
Yeah. No. Anyways, you have the vegetarians who are sitting here telling us all meat and all animal products are going to kill you, going to give you cancer, blah, 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 going to give you clogged arteries. And then you have the carnivore diet, which they're not really necessarily preaching that vegetables are bad, but they're basically just saying, like, if you eat meat, you are getting all of the essential nutrients.
But there are diets that are like, let's talk about keto for a second.
Right.
You really think that eating a carrot is bad for you, but putting a stick of butter in your coffee is perfectly acceptable. Why? That makes absolutely no sense.
I know.
Absolutely no sense. You
man.
can't eat a vegetable, but a stick of butter in your coffee is fine.
Right. I'm scared of strawberries, or I'm scared of apples or a banana as a
Watermelon,
keto diet.
like you can't have watermelon.
Yeah, but give me the stick of butter. Let me put a cup of coconut oil in my coffee. Hashtag health.
Yeah, and it's like it doesn't matter what way you go when you're so far away from like middle ground, going any way, one right or left. It's all that way. All or nothing thinking is not going to help in any situation.
Right.
One of the things that bothers me most, though, is, like I said before, and I feel the same way about the fat shaming, and then now to how you eat. I don't care what you eat.
It's true.
I really don't. If you ate dirt and that was your nutrition for the day, as long as you, that's fine with me.
Right.
It's whenever it's some of this ethical stuff. Whenever these vegetarian, not vegetarians, but the
like vegans.
The vegans. Whenever they're now telling me what I need to be eating because of its ethics and whatnot.
Yeah.
Mind your own business.
Mm-hmm.
But also
100%.
We could also argue that because have you ever seen agricultural fields?
Oh, sure.
And do you know what it takes to make a field? You have to kill everything in that field before you plant it.
And I do. I like seeing those arguments and stuff had. I've watched a few of those debates. And like I said, if whatever you want to do is up to you, that's fine with me.
I think that's why there's no morality in food, because there is no way of eating as humans that people and animals are going unscathed.
To your
There's
point,
no innocent way of eating.
Life eats life. And that's just period. That's how it goes. If you look at any life form, it's eating other life.
Yeah.
In some way.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that it could all be done better. And I don't love the mistreatment of animals, and I don't love that chickens are having to be crammed into coops and crammed and overpopulated and probably pumped with some sort of steroids or hormones.
But on the other end, you can't completely avoid it unless you are super wealthy.
Right.
Yeah, right. It's definitely an ethical question at that point. And then, like you said, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I know what I have to do to survive. I got to go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
I can hunt. I can hunt a buck or two, a year, and that's going to fill my freezer a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I still got to get my bread. Still got to get my eggs and everything else.
Right.
I don't see a value or a viable way for my family to eat everything that we need without having to support factory farming. Unfortunately.
Yeah, and because we do that does not make us less healthy than the people that do.
Right.
Because what are we measuring that by? One.
And also, it's like, let's do what we can. Just because we can't completely be self-sustainable all by ourselves, it doesn't mean we can't hunt. We can't have some chickens. We can't learn to grow some of our own things.
Start a garden or something.
And that doesn't mean you have to do everything by yourself. But we can start small. We can do some things.
Right. And I think the main thing is vegans or vegetarians telling us that we're going to have cancer for not following their way of life. That's the whole problem here.
I honestly feel like if you're trying to eat as simply as possible, I'm going to eat something that only has one ingredient on it, which is like, your vegetable has that vegetable. Spinach is spinach. Right. Chicken is chicken. Mm-hmm. If you're looking at any sort of supplementation that tastes the same, you're eating a chemical shitstorm. Right. So like, can I say the S word on here? Sorry.
I'll beep it out. No, I don't care.
Like I just don't think, like, if you're trying to eat as close to nature as possible, then eat fruits and vegetables, beans and rice. But there's no way of eating all of these foods that are made in laboratories and calling yourself healthier and more superior morally to people who are eating more towards a sustainable living.
Right. Yeah. And you also have to look at a lot of the people that are in that scenario where they're living so fearful that everybody's trying to poison them. They live in fear that, I can't eat that because that has this in it, or I can't eat this because this came from that farm. And like, that is not healthy either. Think of the
constant thinking, the mental work. Yeah.
Literally.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. So anyways,
the carnivore diet, it interests me. That being said,
what's that one guy that was like, I only eat liver?
Blah, Liver King. He was taken down hard.
Yeah. It interests me, but I don't know how viable that would be for myself at all.
No.
And then I would also, just from an athletic point of view for my fights and whatnot, carbohydrates are pretty important for me.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that you can't survive off of just eating meat, but as far as optimal athletic performance and stuff, I think carbs are. I think you need all 3 macros.
But also that's kind of what goes back to like the beginning too. Like a lot of times I feel like fitness these days have become like fashion over function.
Yes.
Like what are we doing? Are we doing it for looks, or are we doing to be more functional in movements?
Correct. Yep, that's good.
Speaking of that, moving on.
Yes.
So when it comes to your knowledge, right? You got your academia knowledge, what you think that you've learned from school versus your field knowledge.
Yeah.
You know, things that you've actually learned trial and error in the gym.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this because I love talking. You know, Veronica, you've worked in big box gyms before.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've seen trainers that have, you know, their bachelor's or their master's in exercise physiology and blah, blah, blah. And then you have the trainers who started right out of high school, got their certification, and started training from that point on.
Yeah.
And I can tell you a large majority of the time, that person who started right out of high school, got their certification, started training real young, can program and coach 10 times better than the person who was just pumped full of facts in the academic world. And that's myself. I have my bachelor's. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I have my bachelor's, and I know exercise physiology really well, but my first year training clients, I was a lost sheep. I could tell you how to squat correctly, and I could tell you this, but I had no idea how to coach lifestyle.
Sure.
And that's something that you can only learn the NSCA certification doesn't teach you how to coach people's behaviors.
Right.
They teach you how to coach somebody's deadlift, you know, stuff like that. And so, I mean, there's more than that, but, so I think there's one side of the spectrum where academia loves to to come in on social media and say, this is why you did this. I read the study and you made this mistake and blah, blah, blah. But when you have somebody who was brought up in the real world and they learned all of their things in the field, they can see things from a more humanistic kind of point of view.
I think we can all agree too, like food and fitness is not black and white. Right. So there's nothing that you can prescribe for one person that's going to work for everybody as far as diet and as far as any sort of performance and any sort of program. Yeah. So I think that when you get in a mentality that like, oh, I did it and this is the way it works for me, or this is on the other side what I learned in school, so it should work for everybody, you're going to be mistaken either way.
Right. That's true. 100%.
Yeah, I definitely have dealt with that. Like I opened up a franchise that was like a studio fitness place, right? Personal training. And I was the only one with a cert, and my coworkers were either just about to graduate or had graduated with a degree. And although we were the same job title, the exact same pay, I definitely felt like I got picked on a little bit more and I had to prove myself a little bit more. There's something in holding a piece of paper. And I really felt like I had to argue for myself. And part of that argument was as much knowledge as you do have from a bachelor's or whatever, the certification and personal experience definitely shouldn't be written off, because I may not have as much knowledge, but my knowledge that I do have is more condensed for what I need to do in everyday life.
One thing I would add to that is, I mean, you can read about a subject in a book, and you can read about it and study about it and take a test on it. But until you're underneath the bar and you actually have the experience over and over again, there's so much of a difference of understanding of a movement, like a squat, for instance, versus reading it in a book and then actually doing it.
Execution, for sure.
And being able to convey that to somebody else. And the fact that you squat every day, or not every day, but every week, right?
Twice a week,
whatever your program, says. But the fact that you're being about it and you show the clients that you also do it, you didn't just read in a book about it, you're actually doing it. And to me, that's a lot more, what's the word? Not commendable, but
I think that's a marker of a good teacher in general. Like the whole thing of teaching is you learn, and then you have to learn to teach somebody else. That's how you know that you've really understood what you've taken in.
That's why I think a good team of someone who has the academic knowledge and someone who has the field knowledge put together, primo champ.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what you've become. I mean, like you said, you started out just kind of having your academia, but I mean, you've spent so much time in the gym, underneath a bar, working with clients where you're fully experienced.
Yeah, I'm a professional.
I think there's something fun about like seeing something like finally started like seeing muscle definition myself and being like, oh, look, it's like I cracked the code, like something clicked.
Right.
It's like now I really
Right.
get it. Cause you're right. It's different learning about it versus doing it because you're like, okay, now I really understand it.
Right.
Yeah. And how hard it is. You can never convey how hard it really is to earn an extra 10 pounds on your bench press, or an extra, adding a whole
say
nother
it's so much
plate.
harder for women. Like putting on muscle is just harder for women. It is, and that's why it is kind of laughable that people are worried about women are worried about looking like men.
Oh yeah.
Like people,
Right.
women who look like men are trying to look that way.
Yeah.
Like it didn't happen by accident.
Like a little trend.
Right. It didn't happen by accident. Like it is hard work to put on some muscle.
Right.
Some really hard work.
I think this concept is very well explained in the Bible, and it kind of talks about academia being the Pharisees. These were the groups of people that knew the Bible in and out. They knew every single word of the Bible. They were forced to read it as kids, and they were forced to memorize it as kids. And that's a massive book to memorize. But they did not know how to have a relationship with the Lord. And so it's kind of the same thing with I would call academia the Pharisees in this scenario. I'm not saying that's true, but I'm saying in this scenario. And then you have the people who understand that their relationship with the Lord is way more important than knowing facts about the Bible and what was said in Leviticus and Genesis and blah, 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 blah. It's about having that personal relationship with God, that life-changing moment with the Holy Spirit that changes you, and it from that you want to read the Bible and you want to know the Word, but it's not trying to just follow these rules and learn without the lifestyle. And
It's not all about theology.
It's not all about theology. It's not all about just knowing facts. It's about that relationship and then the love and lifestyle flowing out of that relationship. So the next one I wanted to talk about, well, this is one I'm pretty I kind of tend to be on one side of the spectrum rather than the middle of this one, but this is when I'm programming for a client or somebody recommending a program for somebody. I tend to always recommend a full body workout versus a body part split. And a body part split is kind of what it sounds like. It's where you're doing chest and tris on Mondays, back and bis on Tuesdays, glutes and hams on Wednesdays, and then, every single day is a different muscle group. Excuse me. And I tend to, for the majority of the people in the world, a full body workout a couple days a week is going to be way more beneficial than a body part split. But that's kind of a full body workout is where every single workout you hit every muscle group for the most part. Yeah. So what do y'all think about that?
And again, I think that a lot of these topics that we're talking about today boils down to one size doesn't fit all, right?
Right.
So it's like there's no like completely right answer for everybody across the board. But for the most part, unless you have a program and very specific goals, like you're a fighter or you're a bodybuilder or you're a power lifter, and you have very specific goals, you probably should be starting off with like full body.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And because I think if I'm gonna tell you that frequency of stimulation is probably one of the most important factors in building muscle, and you only hit chest and you only do bench press once a week on Mondays, or twice a week even, I don't think that's as beneficial frequency wise as hitting is instead of doing 30 sets of chest on Monday, doing 10 sets of chest on Monday, 10 sets of chest on Wednesday, 10 sets of chest on Friday, breaking it up and increasing that frequency, still getting the same amount of volume, but it's broken up within the week. I think that's just a lot more beneficial than doing all of your chest sets on 1 or 2 days a week.
My comment on that, I kind of agree with you. It really depends on the individual a whole lot and the amount of time that they have to actually put into the gym.
Yeah.
Because I'll also say that I've done some different split workouts that I got tremendous results from.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I do is a body part split.
Really?
Yeah.
One of the best ones that I actually got a lot of results from and made tremendous strength gains was a push day, pull day, leg day.
Yep, that's what I do.
And
like, how many days a week though?
3 days a week.
Okay.
So 3 days a week.
I just rotate it. I just keep going.
You just keep going. And that's fine. At the time when I was in college, it was just what I had time for.
Yeah.
But that being said, like you said, I could, because I was taking the rest of the week off, I could hit bench press hard.
Gotcha.
Like
Yeah.
super hard.
Yeah.
Versus now if I do bench press and then I know I'm going to hit bench press again on Wednesday, you know, I can't go as heavy on Wednesday because my chest is already sore.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So there were definitely, I think that they're different, and I actually like to rotate between doing full body
I do them both
and then hitting a split.
Right.
I don't think either one's wrong, and I don't think either one's right either.
Right.
I think it's important.
And
to do
that's
both.
the whole point of the conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I do body part splits. Probably, I'll go through, do it twice a year maybe, and I enjoy it and I love it. But I think they only work for people who are willing to commit to 5 to 6 days a week, because without that, you're probably not going to get enough frequency. That's my opinion on it anyways.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, and again, like I said, I think it's body part split is probably more for advanced lifters and advanced people with specific goals.
If you're an average person who hasn't worked out before or in a
worry
long
about
time and you only have 2 or 3 days a week, I think you got to do the full
Somebody
body.
once called it a buffet. Just go in and buffet it up.
Yeah.
Do it everything. A little bit of everything.
Yeah. This next one is kind of interesting too. It's basically the side of the spectrum that does nothing but sit-ups and crunches and planks and leg raises and blah blah blah. And then the other side of that is, I don't need to do any core work because I do all the compound
Abs are
lifts.
made in the kitchen.
Yeah, or that one too. You're right. I don't need to do those because I work my core doing deadlifts and I work my core doing squats and all that fun stuff. So I think both camps have their value.
Yeah.
But
I mean, on that same token, I think that there are people, this all or nothing mentality is what everything is about. And like, just because you see somebody doing something differently than you doesn't mean they're wrong.
Right.
And just because vice versa, like things can be right for different people. And so I think that what you said kind of earlier, it's like, I don't care what you eat. I don't care how much you work out. I think we all kind of need to mind our own business. And the reason that we don't, and I think what I said earlier is it comes down to we're getting some sort of superiority, some sort of feeling morally that we feel like we're doing better than other people. Right. There's some competition here, whether we realize it or not. And that's where these feelings of like anger or frustration towards people who don't understand what we're doing or don't agree with what we're doing comes in.
Well, I think some part it is malicious where it is a superiority. Say that word again.
Superiority.
There you go.
Superiority.
That one. But also, I've run across the individual in the gyms that they love lifting so much that they want to share what they know so badly, and they think that it's going to help you.
Right.
And it's to the point where it's like, will you just leave me alone?
Right.
You know, I don't. Yeah, I'm doing my bench how I want to do it. I don't need your close grip bench press technique to improve.
Right.
Like, just leave me alone.
Right.
You know, and I think sometimes it's because they want to share so much.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's not exactly malicious.
So
I hate unsolicited advice so much.
Yeah, me too. I get it. But going back to the core workouts versus compound lifts only for core, from a fighting standpoint, let me kick you in the abs real quick.
Oh, dude, no,
I'll ask you again. Do you need to work your core?
Do you need to work your core? Right.
I tell you, if you're a fighter, put your armor on. Work that core. Yeah. You need armor all over as much as you can get.
I get that. My take on kind of what the conversation y'all were having is, I think the reason that all of these camps that we've discussed, you know, the fat shaming camp or the healthy at any size camp or the vegan camp versus the carnivore camp, I think these are a thing because humans just naturally want to belong to a group.
Yeah.
Sure.
They want, the people in these camps are identifying so much with these beliefs it's like, these are my beliefs. This is what I belong to, and I think everybody should feel that way.
This is my team, and if you're not on my team, then leave me alone.
I think
or get on my team.
I mean, coming from a background of a psychology major, like everyone's looking for, it's that need to belong. Right. And it's like really high up there on the hierarchy of needs. Like that's huge. People do really crazy things to feel like they belong. Right. A sense of community is really big and it's really hard to find. Yeah. And so I think that when people feel like they found somewhere where they really fit, they want to share that with other people. Like you said, you're like, I fit here. It finally clicked. I cracked the code. I got it. And they want to help other people do it too.
But I also think, and this is my Christian belief, that they will almost never find satisfaction in that group. If you are looking to fill that void, to fill that hole with a way of eating or with exercise, I think, I mean, it will be argued, I think not even exercise will be able to fill that void that our soul needs to belong with a group of people. Not even, anyways. And so I think for me, the church and the people of the church and my group of friends that I've met throughout the church has been able to provide that community for me, that I don't have to feel like I have to go join a vegan group in town to find that group. That's probably a stupid point, but
no, I don't
that's
think
where
so.
my mind went.
Because if you do belong somewhere, you're not looking any longer.
Right.
You're not grasping at someone else's where they belong.
Right.
You need that too.
That's probably true. Yeah.
You already have
like
yours, and once you have yours, you don't need anybody else's.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. That's good.
But
well, have y'all think of any other polarization
things to argue about?
Yeah. That's good. That's good conversation.
We could find it all day. There's always stuff to argue about.
Right. I can't think of anything else.
No, that's good.
That was good.
I think it all boils down to mind your business.
I love
do
that.
what works for you, and what works for you is great. And everyone should be happy for you if it works for you.
It doesn't make you any better or any worse than anybody else. We're trying to do our best out here.
Right.
Well, and unless somebody has asked for your opinion or is paying for your opinion, keep it to yourself.
Yeah, that was kind of my point too. Just, I don't care what you do. You don't have to let me know. And then as far as the social media anonymous thing, man, it has created a culture where people aren't afraid to say hurtful and cruel things.
Right.
And as Mike Tyson says, we live in a society these days where people are way too comfortable saying things that they used to get punched in the mouth for.
Oh, I love
sure.
that. I love that. Dude, even within the Christian community, there are so many of those academia Pharisees zealots out there that somebody tries to put an encouraging video with the Bible verse out or something like that. Oh, that's not what that meant. This and this verse, it actually meant this, and you're wrong about saying this. And dude, I'm just trying to create something positive, trying to give somebody some encouragement out there. And these Christians over here are coming to try to tear down my theology. That's just unsolicited advice.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless it changes who Jesus is, unless it changes the fact that he died on the cross, rose again 3 days later to save our sins. I don't care about your theology for the most part. To
your point, man, there's been wars fought over these things.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
And it started out with just two opinions or something.
Literally, That's why I'll always say, if it doesn't change who Jesus is, what he said, that he is who he says he is, he's gonna do what he said he's gonna do, I don't really care.
Yeah. I've really gotten off social media for a little while. I used to take a few months off every year, just in January, dry January. I used to just get off social media for a month too. And I need a break too. It's just there's a lot of criticism, and a lot of criticism coming all the time can be really exhausting. Yeah. So it's you have to know what you think, what works for you, and follow that.
Right. Cool. Well, thank you for joining us again.
Thanks for having me.
Once again, I'm sure there will be plenty more chances for you to be on.
I'm a main character, didn't you?
I know you're. Oh, that's right.
That's
the thing.
We're just side characters.
We're side characters.
That's right.
Oh man, guys, thank you for joining us. Keep commenting with your questions. We want to continue to build up episode ideas based on your questions, what you want to hear. And just another reminder, we are in a gym closet.
Oh yeah.
And so consider weights that you hear a part of the 3D experience of the podcast. I love it. I hope it doesn't distract any of you guys. It shouldn't, really but here. I love it. It's like you're just in the room with us. Yeah.
Someone deadlifting in the
I know. I freaking love it. It's cool. See you guys next week, and have a great day. Go hit the gym. Go be Jesus to somebody. And what else? See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Progressive Overload podcast. We're honored to be a small part of your day. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or are interested in sponsoring our efforts, please feel free to reach out via email. Find us at progressiveoverloadpod@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe and follow our podcast so you'll be notified when our next episode drops.
And as always, you can help us reach the masses by sharing our podcast with your friends and family. And then check us out on Facebook and Instagram to follow our own personal journeys and get an inside look on our day-to-day lives. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.